Hey, hello everyone. Hi folks, let's just give it a minute here while everyone joins the virtual room and we get situated. Okay, folks, let's let everyone get in. Okay, hello everyone. I'm Rachel with the Progressive Change Campaign Committee. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us this evening or tonight. We have folks from California and DC and New York and Nebraska, North Carolina, and all over. So thank you for taking the time to be here with us tonight. We know there is a lot going on at home and abroad now. So thank you for being here. We are thrilled to have Nida Allam running in North Carolina's 4th Congressional District here with us tonight. So we're going to have as much time as possible for folks on the line to engage in Q&A with her. We will try to get as many questions in as we can. Please bear with me. Nida is eager to hear from you and answer your questions. I will do my very, very best to get to all of them. When you have a question, just drop it into the chat box at any point. My colleague Manju will let you know when we're coming to you, and we will get through as many as we can. But forgive me in advance if I can't get to yours. So, with that, I'll share one more quick note before we dive in. While we've purposefully designed these events to not charge a ticket fee up front, we really do hope that if you're on with us tonight and what Nida's saying really resonates with you, and you find yourself nodding and you see yourself saying woohoo in the Zoom chat box, please consider chipping into her campaign to help fuel her campaign in this final moment. Every dollar goes a long way. We would appreciate it. Nida would really appreciate it. We'll make that super easy. We'll stick the donate link in the chat box a few times throughout this event. If you can chip in, please do. If you've already chipped in and you're more inspired by Nida tonight, then chip in some more if you can. So one more quick note, we've been making it a tradition here at our Meet the Candidate events to make them a little bit warmer, to feel like we're together when we can't be right now. So folks, let's go ahead and unmute ourselves for just a second or two. Let's say hi to each other and Nida to get this party started, and then please mute yourself back. All right, please unmute yourself, folks. Hi.
Everyone.
Hello.
Hello from Brooklyn.
Woohoo! Hi from Brooklyn. Okay, awesome. Thank you, folks. Okay, so let me go ahead and turn it over to our co-founder, Dr. Stephanie Taylor, to say a few words. Stephanie.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you everyone for joining our call tonight. Tonight, I am really, really pleased and excited to be able to introduce to you Nida Allam, who is running in North Carolina's 4th Congressional District. This seat is a blue seat that is open for the first time in 30 years due to Congressman David Price's retirement. And Nida is currently the Durham County Commissioner, and she's being attacked right now by huge amounts of outsider corporate spending in her race because she has been such an effective champion for people in her community. And she's also been personally affected by so many of the issues that face ordinary people, which is exactly what we need and want in our elected officials, people who understand the struggles and understand what it is like to be trying to live in America and raise a family in America and work in America today. She experienced the insecurity of the American health system when she lost her health insurance during the pandemic. And she's a big champion of Medicare for all. And perhaps most importantly for this moment, Nida has talked openly about how a much wanted pregnancy turned out to be ectopic and required abortion care. Nida and her husband just announced that she is pregnant with a baby girl, which is wonderful news. Congratulations again, Nida. And it also shows how important it is that women's lives can be saved through abortion so they can go on to create the miraculous families that they want. And I'm so glad you'll get to hear from her today. So let me turn things over to Nida for her remarks.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you, Stephanie, Rachel, Manju, and the whole PCCC family for first your endorsement and support of me in this race, and also organizing this opportunity for me to be able to talk to folks across the country who are excited about, our shared vision of progressive change in DC. As Stephanie mentioned, I'm Nida Allam. I'm a current county commissioner here in Durham, North Carolina, and I already represent 50% of this congressional district. And I've been a worker and advocate for working families in my time as a commissioner, and before that, as political director of the Bernie 2016 campaign, vice chair of the state Democratic Party for 4 years. And I never expected myself to get involved in politics. You know, I had a pretty normal upbringing in childhood. I was raised by immigrant parents from India and Pakistan. And I spent a lot of my time with my mom when she was the chairwoman of our local mosque, helping her run food banks and search for apartments to rent and furnish for newly arrived immigrants and refugees. And I never really considered this work or even our existence in this country to be political. That wasn't until, unfortunately, my senior year of undergrad in 2015, my best friend Yusra Busalha was murdered in her home alongside her husband Dia Barakat and her younger sister Razana Busalha by their neighbor who hated them because they were Muslim. And seeing how the police chief and local elected officials labeled it as a parking dispute without waiting for a proper investigation is what led me to start looking into organizing, because I saw that when our communities, when we don't have a seat at the table, those in power don't speak up for us. They don't advocate for us. So I began looking at ways to organize and claim a seat at that table. As a county commissioner, since I've been elected, one of my first votes was to raise the minimum wage for school employees, because I saw that our school employees were frontline workers in the midst of the pandemic, and pushing to make it retroactive to the beginning of the school year because they couldn't wait for change. They couldn't wait for that relief. I led the charge for tax relief for low-income residents in Durham County, and I remembered my mom's lessons, and I got the city and county to jointly fund an immigrant and refugee coordinator position. And I'm running for Congress because this is our first time in 35 years this district gets to choose our next representative for this seat. And we have the opportunity to elect someone like myself who has a proven track record of getting things done for working families, who shares all of our lived experiences and why we need those voices in DC. And I've been proud to have taken a pledge to not accept any corporate PAC or special interest money, because I believe our elected officials need to be accountable to the people of this district, to the people of this country. And, you know, I've been a champion for Medicare for all because I've been a champion for years, but I've seen firsthand, especially in this pandemic, how we can't wait for our basic human rights to be guaranteed. I was one of 250,000 North Carolinians that lost my health insurance when I was laid off from my job due to COVID at the beginning of the pandemic. And I know that we need to guarantee people's basic human right, and it's our lived experiences that will help us get it done in DC. I'm a champion for the Green New Deal because it's my generation and my daughter's generation that's going to have to deal with the ramifications of climate change. And this isn't something we can just keep passing down the road. We need people who understand that we can't wait. We have less than 10 years to stop irreversible damage to this planet. And we need people who understand the ramifications and how scary and dangerous white supremacy and racism and gun violence are in this country. And we need people to take their lived experiences to advocate for robust hate crime prevention legislation and advocate to make sure that everyone in this country is able to live with dignity and feel safe in their own homes. And I'm so excited for the momentum that this campaign has been building. We've been endorsed by groups like PCCC, Sunrise Movement, local organizations like the Durham People's Alliance, the local newspapers, as well as Senator Warren, Senator Sanders. Just 2 days ago, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just endorsed our race. We're really excited about. And we're the only ones in this race that has been out there knocking on doors, phone banking voters, attending forums to make sure we're connecting with people in every single way. We've made over 100,000 phone calls to voters in the district. We've knocked over 4,000 doors in the district. And when we're seeing unprecedented amount of outside super PAC money flooding into this race, that personal touch goes a long way because folks are seeing a bunch of ads and receiving mailers paid for by these super PACs for our opponents. But when they have a volunteer or a campaign organizer knocking on their door to share our story, to share why this campaign is so important for them to get out and vote, that actually drives them to the polls. So I really appreciate all of the work that PCCC and all of y'all have provided to help us reach this point that on Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday is our election. Everything we've been working for the past 6 months now comes down to one day. But we feel good about it because we've been running a campaign that is based in our morals and our shared values of what our democracy should look like. So I'm really excited to be here and answer any questions that y'all may have.
Thank you. All right, folks. So we have lots of questions rolling in. So we're going to start with our friend, Robbie Ann Lim. I'm so sorry.
Robin, sorry. Hello. I'm calling from London, so it's a bit late here. Yes, so Robin Limoges, and I'd like to welcome her very, very much to the race. I do have some quite specific questions. We've seen an intransigence among Republicans. How many communities have you personally visited, and what mandate have you promised to deliver to them? I don't think that advocating is enough for Democrats anymore. I'd like to know where you stand and what you promise to deliver to them. And I wish you every good wish on this campaign. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin, and thank you for joining from London. That is quite the distance you're joining from, but I appreciate your dedication to this. And for me, I've been championing the same things I've been championing from day one, of real change for working families across this district, across North Carolina, and across this country. And that means fighting for a real living wage. And, on the county commission, I work to raise the minimum wage for our school employees to $15 per hour. But even on that board, I told my fellow board members that that isn't enough. The cost of living in this congressional district is $24 per hour for someone to be able to live with dignity, to be able to afford their utility bills, to be able to pay rent and take care of their children, have childcare. And we need to advocate for a true living wage in this country. And the ways we're advocating is through investment in our public transportation. Congressman David Price, whose seat I'm running for, he has been a champion and a leader in this space. And I want to follow in those footsteps. And it takes a local elected official who's been working on public transportation solutions at the local level to take that to the federal level to say that we can't make this happen unless we have federal support. Because unfortunately here in North Carolina, we have a state legislature that refuses to advocate for working families. And so we need our federal legislators to step up to help us fill that gap that we need for our municipalities. And that's when we invest in public transportation, not only are we reducing our carbon footprint, but we're also increasing access to jobs. We're increasing access to higher quality education. And those are all things that, Republican, Democrat, unaffiliated, that folks need. And we know that there's so many of these issues that have bipartisan support. But the major issue we're seeing in DC is that there's big money in politics that's persuading and influencing our elected officials and making them accountable to corporate PACs and lobbyists instead of to the constituents of their district. And that's why I'm proud to have been endorsed by End Citizens United as well, and to have never taken money in my county commission race, in my race for Congress, from any of these corporate PACs or special interests.
Thank you.
Brilliant. I'm very impressed. Very impressed. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, up next we have Edith. Edith Frank. Edith, can you please tell folks, share with folks where you join us from and what your question is?
Am I muted?
Yeah, we can hear you. Hi.
I'm here from Salinas, California, Steinbeck country. I'd like to ask, how would you encourage and give the young people confidence to run? I mean, it's a huge undertaking. How would you encourage them to feel empowered enough to do that?
Absolutely. I love this question because this has been something that's been a passion of mine. On my time as vice chair of the state party, I was the youngest board member on our executive committee, as well as organizing through the years with young Democrats in North Carolina. And after getting elected, I saw myself firsthand. I live in one of the most progressive parts of North Carolina, but it was still hard for a young woman of color to be able to run for office, to be able to raise the money that you need, to be able to reach voters the way you need to. And I saw that that was something that we needed to start taking more seriously and investing in. So that's why after I was elected, I saw, okay, I was able to raise funds. I've built a network of people who believe in me and believe in what I can accomplish. I'm sure that they'll believe in other folks like me. And I started reaching out to them and continued to fundraise. And I worked with young Democrats across the state, where we recruited people to run for local office, young people to run for their town council, their school board, their county commission, because that's where we can start driving real change. And we were actually able to fundraise enough to help Roxborough Town Council flip their city council to have a Democratic majority for the first time. And, you know, it does take an extra effort. We know this with young people, we also know it specifically with women running for office. Statistics have shown that it takes a woman being asked 7 times to run for office before she says yes. And we need to change that because, you know, we're the ones who usually have that personal connection or have those relationships with community that are stronger, that we're just advocating for our children, we're advocating for better workplace conditions, that we can bring so much if we run for office. And it's going to take each and every one of us coming together in spaces like this to support young people in running for office, support organizations like Run for Something that supports young people who are running for local office.
Thank you, Edith. Thank you so much for the question, and thank you for being here. Okay, up next, let's move to our friend Amy Bowden. Amy, can you please share with folks where you're calling in from and what's your question?
Hi, Rachel, and congratulations, Nida, on the impending birth of your daughter. I have 2 of them, and girls are great. But, you know, I wanted to ask you, Nida, just specifically about the extreme threat to Roe v. Wade, and then just going a step beyond that, the threat to birth control and what you might be thinking about or advocating for. Because it's one thing to have our abortion rights taken away from us, and yet another whole step in the process for, you know, birth control, the threats to birth control. Do you have any thoughts to share with us on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll start off with saying, like, you know, you and me both know, and a lot of people on this call, I'm sure, know that, you know, Roe v. Wade potentially being overturned, like, that is a personal concern. That is a personal issue that many of us have had to deal with. And it's something that I had to deal with last year when, as Stephanie had mentioned, that me and my husband, we'd been going through fertility treatments. We wanted a child more than anything. And unfortunately, when I suffered an ectopic pregnancy, an abortion was the only thing that would save my life. There was no way that that pregnancy could have been viable. And we had to make that decision. And we're seeing already now that there are states that are making the type of abortion that I had illegal. And I live in a state in North Carolina where our reproductive rights are constantly threatened. And that's why what we're seeing right now is our Supreme Court, that's supposed to be a nonpartisan institution, being used for these partisan right-wing extreme causes. And that needs to change. And when it comes to reproductive health care, all around, whether it's birth control, abortion, healthcare, we need to protect it because it is healthcare. And we need to make sure that when we pass Medicare for all, we include reproductive healthcare in Medicare for all and make sure it's accessible to everyone.
Thank you, Nida. Amy, thank you so much for joining us and for the question. We'll see you next time, Amy. Okay, up next, let's go ahead, Nida. I wanna bring in, I don't wanna leave the folks out that are joining us online. So let me bring in some of those folks, those voices as well. Nida, so McKay asks, McKay from DC, your roots are in grassroots organizing. How would that shape or impact the way you lead and organize in Congress?
Absolutely. I think what we're seeing now is that we need more organizers to be in Congress, because we're seeing that, you know, our members of Congress They aren't communicating with each other the way that they should be in the best interest of their constituents. We need to have organizers that are not only elected to their seat and just sitting back and saying that this is enough. We need people elected, especially in the district like this in North Carolina, where it's so blue. It's a safe blue seat. The race is going to be decided on Tuesday. There's going to be a Republican opponent, but it's not really that competitive. Is that what am I going to do? What is the winner of this seat going to do from May through November when we have a US Senate seat that we need to flip come November? And it's going to take a member of Congress elect that is an organizer that understands that we can't just sit on our hands after Tuesday, that we need to get back on the ground, go out knocking doors to make sure that we elect Sherry Beasley to the US Senate from North Carolina. Because we've seen the House has voted to pass Roe v. Wade, but the Senate refuses to. And we need to be working in coalition as organizers, as elected officials, to be using our platform to flip seats. And we need to be using our momentum as organizers to be persuading our colleagues in DC that we're fighting for working families, that what is the reason that each and every one of us got elected to begin with? Like, who are we advocating for? And if the answer isn't your constituents, if the answer isn't the residents of your district and of your state, then there's something deeply wrong with our political system. And that needs to change. And we need to organize to get that big money out of politics to make sure that we have elected officials who can answer without any hesitation that they're in this to fight for the people of their district.
Thank you. Okay, up next, let's bring someone else joining us from Facebook Live as well. Okay, next up we have Nida. We have Charles. He's joining us from Miami. He says, you've talked about how climate change is the greatest challenge of our generation. What are the steps you see as crucial to addressing this crisis?
Yeah. We've seen that the Green New Deal is the only piece of legislation that gets us on a track to stop irreversible damage to this planet on the timeline that we need. As I mentioned in my introduction, we have less than 10 years to stop irreversible damage to this planet. And it's also a plan that not only, we hear elected officials, we hear political correspondents that say, well, we can't afford that. We can't afford the Green New Deal. And my response to that is always, how can we afford not to? We have one planet that we can live on. We have one place where our future generations need to have livable or breathable air. They need to have clean drinking water. They need to be able to survive. And so we cannot afford to not save this planet. And the Green New Deal creates millions of new jobs. And it creates good paying union jobs at the same time, and it boosts our economy. And we need to look at this holistically, that we can't just say we can't afford it, so we need to just keep taking on the costs, the unprecedented costs that we see increasing of how natural disasters are continuing to get worse. In states like North Carolina, our hurricane seasons are getting more and more drastic. We're seeing wildfires grow more and more drastic in the western parts of our state. And we need a Green New Deal to be able to save us from the huge amounts of costs in the huge amounts of costs that are increasing because of the damage that's being caused by these natural disasters, that if we were just proactive in preventing them from becoming more and more severe.
Thank you. Okay, folks, so keep the great questions rolling in. Just drop them in the chat box when you have a question. Don't hesitate. Okay, up next, we have our friend Grace Akbar. She says, Nida, her question is, how can the Democratic Party enhance its messaging to capture the enthusiasm of the American electorate?
The way we do that is by talking about the issues that the American electorate and the people of this country are dealing with every single day, and talking about them, having those conversations in community spaces where folks are already meeting. We can't just sit as elected officials, even as a county commissioner, as members of Congress. We can't just tell our constituents and community members, hi, come to me and I will talk to you. We need to go to them. And we need to build that trust and relationship with folks across the country to make sure that they see that, you know, we're working for them. And that was something I was very proud to do as vice chair of the state party, where I saw that there was a gap, especially between communities of color and faith-based communities. So I worked to form the Interfaith Caucus of the state party, where we organized by building relationships with leaders of synagogues, mosques, temples, churches, and going to those spaces, not to persuade them to vote for our Democratic candidates, to build relationship and talk about what are your congregation members, what issues are they dealing with, and bringing in state legislators, county commissioners, soil and water district supervisors to those conversations so that they can hear from folks each and every day. Because when individuals see that their elected officials are actually working for them, when they actually see that they're showing up for them, that's what gets them motivated and excited to vote. When we're just sitting behind, you know, our offices and they'll see us when we're in meetings or on C-SPAN or whatever way your meetings are broadcasted, that doesn't build that personal relationship to get them motivated to vote, to get them motivated to be electorally involved.
Thank you. Great. So Nida, you know, one thing that I'm sure has been on your mind and is on a lot of our members' minds right now is the Supreme Court, right? So what are, you know, the steps you would support on reform, on Supreme Court reform, and your thoughts around that?
Yeah. There's a couple of things that we need to do in our Supreme Court.
Yes.
So I'll start with one of the things that we need to do is I believe that we need to have term limits on our Supreme Court. We're seeing that we have people get into office that are appointing people for lifelong terms to our Supreme Court to push a partisan agenda. And along with that, we also need to expand our Supreme Court. And it's not something that's extreme or a radical idea. We have expanded the Supreme Court in the past before. And we're seeing with how our population growth, how many cases the Supreme Court has to see consistently, that there is a case for us to be expanding it and making sure that we're able to provide, you know, nonpartisan, truly nonpartisan judicial branch for the people of this country.
Thank you. And a little bit of a follow-up question, Nida, to that. Do you think that the current, you know, court that we have faces a legitimacy issue crisis? Do you kind of, you know, see that as part of the larger democracy crisis? Yeah,
we definitely see that, especially with, you know, with Roe v. Wade being one example, that we had members of the Supreme Court who during their confirmation hearings made comments saying that they wouldn't to overturn Roe v. Wade. We're seeing members of our Supreme Court have conflicts of interest related to President Trump and his participation in the insurrection and its coordination with that. We're seeing our Supreme Court members clearly having conflicts of interest and sitting on our courts without repercussions. And we need to change that.
Thank you. So I see our friend Michael Green here put a question in the chat. Michael, sir, where are you joining us from? And can you unmute yourself and ask your question to Nida, please?
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. And I have a question of, and what about ending the filibuster so that we can balance and broaden broaden and balance out the ideology of the Supreme Court? That's
yes. And thank you for bringing that, Michael. And I apologize for not listing it in the things that we need to do to change our Supreme Court. But yes, we absolutely need to abolish the filibuster because we're seeing that it's holding us back in the Supreme Court, but also from passing meaningful legislation. We're seeing legislators in Congress and the Senate that represent a smaller percentage of the population of this country making decisions that negatively impact the vast majority of this country. And that needs to change.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for joining us from Texas. And thank you for the question.
Part two of my question. Part two.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, part two of your question. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Up next, Nida. So there's a lot of, outsider spending in your race. Do you want to tell us a little bit more? How are you firing back? How are you fighting back?
Well, I see also once we finish this one, Michael had his hand up again, so I wanted to just get back to him. But yeah, we're seeing that this has become the most expensive Democratic primary in North Carolina's history. It is the fourth most expensive congressional race across the country right now. And it's disappointing because this is a safe blue seat. This is a seat to replace Congressman David Price, who is a champion for getting money out of politics, for having, reforming our campaign finance rules. And to have this happening in the seat to fill his legacy is quite disappointing. And also, the way that we're responding is to continue to just be a grassroots movement, because we're seeing people in this district want someone who's going to stand up to that big money. They want someone who believes that our elected officials should be accountable to the people of this district. They want someone who's actually putting in the grassroots effort to earn each and every single vote, of knocking on your door, calling you, standing at the polls, greeting you, attending forums. And that goes a long way. And we're seeing, I've been able to earn the endorsement of the Indy Week, the News and Observer, the largest newspaper in the state of North Carolina, the Durham People's Alliance, Sunrise Movement, North Carolina, so many organizations and newspapers that share that vision with us of having an elected official that believes in advocacy for the people at a grassroots level.
Thank you. And I think our friend Michael Green had another question. Nida, I know you want to go back to him. Michael, coming back to you. What's your next question, sir?
Thank you, Rachel.
Of course.
Just the idea of how does she feel about expanding and broadening the number of Supreme Court justices so that we have a more balanced ideology, so it's not so right-wing. We need to balance. It's
absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. Yeah. As I mentioned before, I believe that we need to expand the Supreme Court, and that's something that we've done in this country before. So it's not something that's unprecedented. It's something that can be done.
Okay, great. Michael, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the thoughtful questions. Nida, thank you for all of the very thoughtful responses. I'm going to kick it back over to our co-founder, Stephanie. I think she might have one last question for you. So Stephanie.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for those great questions. And thank you, Nida, for your very thoughtful answers. Nida is being attacked by enormous amounts of money from these super PACs, and she really needs our support. So please do consider chipping in whatever you can. And speaking of which, Nida, can you leave us with a few thoughts about the urgency of investing in this race right now? And how can folks get plugged in as volunteers, particularly from afar? How can we get involved and help you win?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for that segue. And yeah, we're in the final heat of it. Early voting ends on Saturday. So we have 2 more days of early voting, and then election day is Tuesday. And we are having a blitz over the weekend of knocking as many doors, making as many phone calls. And my campaign manager, Maya, will drop the link on how to volunteer for the campaign. And we have virtual phone banking, so you can phone bank from wherever you are. If you're in North Carolina, if you're in the district area, we would love to have you come out and knock on doors. And your financial support goes further than ever right now, because we actually have some amazing college students that, finished up their semester and decided to stay back from their summer vacations, delay them to be able to knock on doors and phone bank for us and reach every voter. And we want to make sure that we are able to compensate them for that, because that's a huge sacrifice that they're making. And so when you make a contribution today, you're helping us support, our college student organizers who are staying back to knock on those doors, who are currently crashing on their friends' couches to be able to stay for a week or 2 extra here in the district. And that's what's really at stake is, supporting young organizers, supporting this campaign at a grassroots level. We also are we have our digital ads that are up to make sure that folks, when they're on Instagram, Facebook, that they continue to see us. We have our TV ad. We're getting flooded in TV ads from these super PACs. And we want to make sure that, you know, folks hear from me, and we actually have a really strong ad that we've been airing that shares my personal story about how I had to receive an abortion last year. And we've been airing that on TV to share with folks of what's at stake in this race, what's at stake across the country right now, and why we need more progressives elected to DC. And so your contribution helps us continue to air that, and, you know, air it to make sure it reaches more and more people in these final 4 days. And Maya just dropped our final TV ad link. So if you want to watch it, you're able to see that.
Nida, thank you, thank you, thank you. Folks, thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope, I know I'm inspired, I know Stephanie is. I hope that you all are too, and see why we need Nida Allam in Congress representing North Carolina's fourth district. So if you can chip in, please chip in. If you can make calls, if you can text, if you're in North Carolina and you're close by, and if you can knock on doors, please can. Get your friends involved. Spread the word. So do what you can, and please know how grateful we are for your interest in being here, learning more about Nida, your time and your support. So folks, thank you so much. Stay safe. I know lots going on in the world, so thank you for being here with us. Nida, thank you, thank you, thank you. Go Nida.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Good night, folks. Stay safe. See you soon. Bye, folks. Good night, everyone. Thank you, Nida. Bye.